B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
This week, we are heading to South Central LA to talk about a legend of legends, a true West Coast hip-hop pioneer and icon in every sense of the word, one of the originators of gangsta rap, one of the first rappers to successfully cross over to acting, an artist who is known for being a great rapper, wasn't afraid to start a heavy metal band on the side. This week, we are discussing Ice motherfucking T, my favorite MC of all time. This should be a good one. Joining me is, as always, Raven Hunter. And I got Noise Wave in the house, Surreal the MC, AP, Rowdy Jesus. We are going to do this. All right. As always, I will start. And I'm going to 1989. I'm going to the Iceberg Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say album. And I'm going with the song Lethal Weapon. I think this whole album is a little underrated. People obviously talk about Power and then kind of skip to OG a lot. But Iceberg's a really dope album. And I only had room for one song from Iceberg. And I picked this because I thought it was such a cool concept about how the brain is way more dangerous than any bomb or gun ever is. You know, Hitler never pulled the trigger himself. Also, one of the dopest album covers of all time, The Brain and the Hand Grenade. Africa Islam on the beat, Evil E on the cuts, classic Ice-T, Lethal Weapon is the mind. Great metaphors going on there. That's my number 10. Surreal, what is your number 10?
10 from the Trespass soundtrack featuring Ice Cube, Trespass, the title track of the movie. How many bullets? I did the way they kind of do the back and forth, and they're both I don't know. It's almost more of a nostalgia thing. You know, there's other tracks where those two have teamed up, like on the Tupac album and stuff. But that one I don't know. I remember the video kind of being cheesy, but I kind of liked it too. And I had the movie on VHS, so I got to go with Trespass.
No, I love that song. And the Trespass soundtrack is one of the most underrated. It's one of my favorite soundtracks, period, of all time. You know, since the movie wasn't a blockbuster, I think it kind of gets forgotten. But that whole fucking soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah,
just amazing. No, that's a good pick. Raven, what is your number 10?
All right. So number 10 for me, it's funny. I went to 2000's WWF Aggression, which was the compilation where my number one Run DMC song came from that fucking little compilation. Pimpin' Ain't Easy, Godfather's theme. And it's just, I loved Ice-T's flow over Godfather's theme song with all the samples of Godfather throughout it. It was a dope song.
And he was the right rapper to choose for that theme.
Definitely.
And we talked about that album before. All these rappers at the time redid wrestlers' theme songs. So interesting, number 10. AP, what is your number 10?
All right, my number 10 is going to be actually a newer Body Count song, Another Level, featuring one of my favorite metalheads, Jamie Josta. I just like that song because the way they mashed together, it actually just sounded like a super group, you know, like a super metal group. I was like, oh man, it just gets my heart blood pumping.
You know what's crazy to look on now is there's been as many Body Count albums as Ice-T solo records. So you're right, we could do a whole Body Count list. I didn't even entertain Body Count because I had so many to choose from his solo career. But I'm glad Body Count's at least getting brought up because that is a big part of his career. But I'm taking us way before Body Count. I'm taking us to 1986 for my number 9. And I'm going with the song Doggin' the Wax. This is my single from 86 that I got signed by Ice-T when I met him. So this was my first Ice-T record, first Ice-T song I heard. This made me fall in love. My cousin, who put me on to hip-hop, was playing this record. And just like Run DMC had blown my mind the year before, this blew my mind. Had to get this record. And there's a B-side on this record, a little song called 6 in the Morning that might get brought up later. But up to this point, this was the hardest lyrics I had heard up to this point. I mean, it's 86. And he's talking about Uzis, razors to your wrists, assassinations, body bags, spitting on your grave and punching your mom at your funeral. All this ill shit that to me as a grade school kid, I was like, oh, that's, that blew my mind. This was also the beginning of the LL beef. He says, player from LA, cooler than any J. My name is Ice-T, I'll make the mafia pay. Super dope scratching by Eva Lee. I think Ice kills it lyrically. For 1986, this is a really good record. The beat might sound dated, but his lyrics are super dope. Go listen if you're not familiar with it. Head of its time. Wish I could put it higher. This is what got me into Ice-T, so it had to make the list. My number 9, Surreal. What's yours?
My number 9's from the OG Original Gangster album, and it is Ziploc. And the reason is, so the second concert I think ever went to, the first concert I ever went to without an adult chaperone, it was just myself and my buddy Jerry from high school, was the OG Original Gangster tour, and he came out to that song, LA, Home of the Body Bags, and that was playing that intro, and then once upon the place to be, the I, the C, the E, the T, and the bass is just as loud. It's like my first rap show, my first hip hop show, and I just remember it on that album. It's kind of like a second skit. It's only like a minute long song, but it just, that nostalgia once again. It was the first song he performed at the first hip hop show I had ever seen, and it just, whenever I hear it, it just takes me back to like '92.
Oh, what a great first concert. Damn, I wish I could been on that OG tour and seen that. That's awesome. And Ziploc is the first time on OG that we hear him rapping. You got that, Home of the Body Bag. Then you got the British lady.
The interview,
yeah. And then Ziploc's the first time we hear him rap on this album, which will get brought up again. But no, I'm glad you picked that. That's a good one. And I'm jealous you got to see the OG tour live. Great number 9, Raven. What is yours?
Mine, I went to 1996 for Six Return of the Real, album that I didn't pay a lot of attention to, and I'm kind of mad I didn't, because it's like everything I like about gangsta West Coast rap on that album. I went with Where the Shit Goes Down, produced by EA Ski and CMT. I really love the beat because I really love fucking EA Ski in them. But Ice-T flows to his beat perfectly, and I just that was one of the standout tracks, and surprises I don't remember really showing too much love to that album.
That was on my honorable mentions, and that was the first song I heard off that album. I had a girlfriend in Detroit at the time, and they played that song on the Detroit radio station. New one from the upcoming Ice-T album, and it was Where the Shit Goes Down. That was honorable mention. That just missed it, because that is good. You're right. He flows. EA Ski can usually do no wrong on the beat. Return of the Real, when it dropped, I was a little disappointed because I was hoping for an OG Home Invasion, but it really has grown on me, and I think it's aged very well. So I'm glad that album gets some love. Good pick. Number 9. What's yours, AP?
Mine is gonna be New Jack Hustler. Most of mine are gonna kind of be the Ice-T songs everybody loves. I'm not the rare Ice-T fan. I'm more of like, I like the fucking hits. I love the ones that are out there and everyone's singing along to them. Those just happen to be my favorite. That one for many reasons, because of the movie. And so, New Jack Hustler.
That was also an honorable mention because it's iconic Ice-T. Also just missed my list. And New Jack City, he was what a great movie. One of the first rappers to successfully, really seriously cross over to acting.
Yep.
Number 8, I'm going to 1991's OG Original Gangster, my all-time favorite Ice-T album, my all-time favorite album, period. OG is perfect in my view. I could have picked 10 songs from this, but for number 8, I picked a song, Mike Contract. There were so many to choose, but I love Mike Contract. It's a faster beat, but I think he rides it perfectly. Classic Ice-T rhymes. And in the hooks, you just got him talking shit. Funky beat that actually Donald D produced. Ice was so dope in this period of time. Damn. This whole album, just fucking amazing. But Mike Contract always stood out. So that was my number 8. What about you, Surreal?
From the Iceberg album, the actual title track, The Iceberg, it has that do 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 that BT Express sample, and then it goes into the JB sample. That's the majority of the song. That this the old school hip hop where they still use a lot of samples still, and it's mostly the beat, but his flow kills it too. The way the beats just collides the samples. When I went back, I always like that song and I don't believe that was released as a single. When I went back, I was kind of reviewing the first 5 albums for sure a lot. I was like, man, I really still like this song, so I had to make that number 8.
And I think it's got a great first line. He spells iceberg and he says, "What's that spell? Can't you read?" And he's telling
Yeah.
ill stories about, Donald D and all of his homies.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. Iceberg. All of his title tracks, Power title track was a really dope song that just
Yeah.
missed it. Ryan Pay's title track was a really good song. They're all that same type of vibe. Raven, what is your number 8?
I went to 1987's Brian Pays, and I went to the song Pain. I love the beat to Pain. It's real smooth feeling. T flows real just smooth and just classic on that shit. That was my favorite track off his debut album was Pain.
Again, honorable mention. Probably my top 3 from Ryan Pays, and 2 made it from Ryan Pays. So no, Pain had that dark vibe that you weren't hearing in '87 at all. That type of record. Good one. Number 8, AP. What's yours?
My number 8 is Body Count, Cop Killers. Obviously, I mean, if anybody knows Noisewave's background, that sure had an influence on some of our writing, but I don't know, it caught the attention of the world. It let everybody know how hard Ice-T was, even though he proved it time and time again from the beginning. But people were like, well, damn, he is the hardest, probably. I mean, come on, you got to give it.
It was on my honorable mentions just because of its historical importance. So I was hoping someone would bring that up. And for you younger viewers, I mean, go back, look. I mean, you want to talk about, it was an election year. You had the president and the vice president fucking talking shit about Ice-T, and you had Dan Quayle was like, no, it was George Bush, the first one, was reciting the lyrics to Cop Killer in the whitest voice you could ever imagine. I'm about to dust some cops off. I'm about to bust some shots off. And, it just crazy. It was a huge story at the time. 7, I am going to 1996's Return of the Real, which we talked about a little before, but I'm going with the first single off that, and that was I Must Stand, and On the Real track. It's such a dope, deep, what I call on the real type track. Ice talks about his past. Then he's dropping knowledge in the later verses. And it's a beat he made himself. Dope sample for the hook. And Ice always, his whole career, dropped knowledge. If you really listen to him, he was always dropping knowledge. And this is one of my favorite of those. I Must Stand. Just always really love that record. So that was my number 7. Surreal. What is yours?
Midnight, cooling the air. From OG Original Gangster, Midnight. He uses that Levee Break sample from Led Zeppelin that Beasties use. I mean, that is just hard. It's another story, gangster story about LA. It is all the elements combined that make Ice-T great.
Thank you. That was my number 11. I literally still remember hearing that for the first time. I get, oh, gee, it's just dropped. I'm listening to it and geeking out because it's so dope. And I'm listening to Midnight, and in the last line, looked at my watch, it was 6 a.m. And then when it hit me,
yeah, like it's a prequel.
That it was a prequel to 6 a.m. Holy shit. He's a fucking Einstein genius, just totally tripped out, and just such a great prequel to 6 a.m. And then once you hear it, especially that first time and it hits you, it's just like, oh shit. It reminds me of the first time I heard Eminem Stan, and then in the last verse he's writing them back. It was like, oh, that's so genius. And that's how I felt about Midnight. I'm so glad someone brought that up, so thank you. Number 7, Raven, what do you got?
I went back to 1996's Return of the Real for the title track Return of the Real. that's just a really killer gangsta beat. I love T's flow in that song. That album, like I said, I really fucking slept on, and I shouldn't have because that's way better than I remembered it being.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's aged really well. It was a little bit different sound than his earlier stuff, but if you look at his whole career, he did evolve. You know, Power and Ryan
Changed up
Pace
quite a bit.
doesn't sound like OG and Home Invasion. It was just an evolution. But I think it's aged really well. It's crazy to think, but 96 was almost 30 years ago now. So AP, what was number 7 for you?
Number 7 for me, I'm going back to Body Count, the first album, Body Count, the title track. Again, that album changed my idea of how, I mean, you didn't just have to pick a genre and roll with it. You could do what you wanted. And it kind of sculpted me who I was at that moment in life completely, that first Body Count album. And I just remember that title track just being, man, they're fucking bringing it.
And that's one thing I always loved about Ice is he doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. If he likes something, he's going to do it. If he thinks something, he's going to say it. I mean, there's not many rappers who would go out and then say, I'm going to start a heavy metal group, you know?
And he's doing not just in music, doing different genres. He was, playing cops and TV
Right.
shows and stuff. He's sculpting all this pop culture and doing it geniusly all on his own.
And never losing respect on the street. He might be one of the most respected.
No, he's keeping it real. He's
right.
making the bends. I mean, he's playing those parts to a T. I see.
No, he might be one of the most respected among his peers rappers out there. All right, we are to number 6, and for the first time, I'm going to 1987's Rhyme Pays. Such a groundbreaking album in so many ways. Let me grab a prop here. Rhyme Pays was the first album in history with a parental advisory sticker. And I got my original copy here, and it was shaped, some people say like a condom. I thought it looked like a bullet, but that was the first ever rap record with a explicit lyric. So it's groundbreaking in that way. This is really the first West Coast gangster rap album. And the song, I haven't even told you the song, is Squeeze the Trigger. This has a similar vibe to Pain. I just like Squeeze the Trigger a little bit more. And it's so damn hard. And this is 87. People need to look at it in context. In 1987, you weren't hearing things like that. So many classic lines ahead of its time. And fun fact, the producers who were working on a movie called Colors heard Rhyme Pays, contacted Ice and said, we want Squeeze the Trigger on our soundtrack for Colors. And he said, let me make an original song about the movie. So without Squeeze the Trigger, we don't get Colors, which, spoiler alert, will come up later. So Squeeze the Trigger is important in so many ways, and it's just fucking hard as hell. So that's my number 6. What about you, Surreal?
From Home Invasion, That's How I'm Living. It's another one of those that has that classic, the name of the breakbeat's called Skull Snaps, and it's one of the most widely used breakbeats. The way they flipped it with that Herbie Hancock smooth, there's a lot of speed changes and stuff with the samples. It's one of those where I love it. Well, it's a story about his life. That's how I'm living. He kind of goes through the New Jersey and all this stuff, and nobody is listening. Like it's genius on 2 levels. The beat alone, the way it was constructed like those old school East Coast hip hop albums, and then he puts like part of his life story on it, and it just pairs really nice to me. And I think it was released as a single, which is kind of odd, but I guess Yo MTV Raps and stuff was going back then, so there was, because I think I had the cassette single of it too, if I remember right. And for some reason, I feel like the single was the video was the remix, and the remix wasn't really hitting as hard as the album version, which not a diss. The album version is really sick.
I always liked his tone in it, that hush tone, which gets you to really pay attention. It is. It's a great life story. And it was a single, and there was a B-side on that single, an unreleased track called Mixed Up. That hits really hard with, I think, Rhyme Poetic Mafia are on it. But yes, it was a single. That's where I was going with it. No, that's a good pick. Home Invasion, I think, is another little underrated album. That's a really fucking good record. Anyways, number 6, Raven, what do you got?
Home Invasion was my favorite T album for a long time. It beat out Original Gangster for a little while for me. I think because I was young as shit and it had a like must be 18 to buy sticker on the cassette at Sam Goody's, so I had to get my sister to buy it for me. But I always just love that album. And on that topic, I'm also from Home Invasion, the song G Style. That's my
Yeah.
favorite song on there because that beat is just a really classic West Coast gangster beat, really good flow by T. And the line, I give a fuck about a cop or a G man. They talk shit, the breath smelling like semen. I used to just cackle at that fucking line, and I don't know why. It still kind of made me laugh every time I heard it. So, G Style.
And Home Invasion might have one of the best album intros of all time. The warning, you're listening to an
Fuck yeah.
MCLP. I was in high school, but I still, laughed at it. I was like, this is the shit. All right, G Style. That actually was an honorable mention. I just crossed it off. What about you, Rowdy Jesus? What's your number 6?
My number 6 off OG Original Gangster, it is the song The Tower.
Yeah.
The
that was
beat,
my
I don't
honorable.
know, the beat just brings my heart
Yeah.
and soul right to music. It just drags you in, and then the whole song itself, the way it just brings you home to that OG shit, that gangster shit.
That was also on my
Yeah.
honorable mention list, and such great storytelling. I mean,
Yeah, every time the stories just flow, and they're beautifully written. Just if you go back and listen to The Tower, how he rides the beat too, it's just he's really making it harder. That beat makes him harder. He makes the beat harder, and it just grabs us together, and it's like
It sounds like you're in prison. The beat makes it like
right,
put you in prison.
right.
It's
you
like
feel
that
like
Michael
you're there.
Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you feel like you're there. I mean, I think that's the best song ever written about, prison life or being in prison, because you feel like you're, on the weight
Yeah.
yard and,
Yeah.
all the shit he talks about. So we're halfway done. And for the first time, I'm going to an album that if we ever do a top 10 most iconic album covers, probably will hit number 1 for me. 1988's Power. And I'm going with the song, which was a single, I'm Your Pusher. Similar to Lethal Weapon, just the metaphoric, calling music drugs and using all the drug slang, but in music terms, can you hook me up with a, 5-0? I can hook you up with a 12-inch. And just the whole, how he flips that just always amazed me. And this album cover, I mean, it's so powerful. It's simple. It's just 3 people standing there. But, and then when you turn it around and you see the Uzi and shotgun behind Ice and Evil E. Also got the next classic LL diss is also on this, when he's naming all the, dope rappers he's got, and the guy asks for LL Cool J, and he's like, nah. Classic Curtis Mayfield sample in the hook, Africa Islam on the beat. And it's a classic video, Ice pushing dope music. There's a police chase in a Ferrari. He's just rapping a verse as he's on this police chase. Got super fine Darlene, the Syndicate Queen, dancing. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I'm Your Pusher, number 5. Surreal, what's yours?
Number 5 for me is the title track, OG Original Gangster. And he's smashing the answer machine at the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
Like, gee, it's kind of like it's got that distortion too. It's one of those songs where the clean version is kind of cool too. You know how every once in a while there's like the clean version is a little different than the album version, and Original Gangster title track.
And one cool thing about OG in general, another thing he did, I think it was ahead of his time, was he put out a VHS video where he recorded a music video for every track on the album, all 24 tracks. He had this, VHS tape for, which just I thought was amazing too at the time. But that song will get brought up again. That is such a classic Ice-T song. We're at number 5, and we are at Raven. What do you got?
Number 5. So, speaking about Ice-T and original songs for the movies, for soundtracks, like he did with Colors, he did it with Trespass, New Jack. But 1995, Tank Girl, he did a track called Big Gun.
Yes.
Which, god damn, that's such a good song. It's got like almost a horrorcore vibe for its age, you know what I mean? Like Me at that era would have loved to have that beat because it would have been
Right.
a really bad horrorcore song. But yeah, it's just a fun song to hear Ice-T talk about Tank Girl too. Like he did it for fucking Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy,
Like
yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I'm glad you guys brought. I was thinking in Breaking. There's so many
So
soundtracks.
many.
yeah. But yeah, Tank Girl, Big Gun.
No, that's a good one. And it always makes me think of an interview I heard in that era where an interviewer asked him, like, because he was in Tank Girl as like a kangaroo hybrid
Yeah.
type thing. And they're like, are you afraid this will, hurt your image? And he said, if someone offered you $750,000 to play a kangaroo, you'd play a fucking kangaroo. And that always got me. He's like,
That's real spit.
it is.
Fuck
It's
yeah.
just real as fuck. And he's right. Shit, I'll be hopping around like a motherfucker. So, Tank Girl. Number 5, AP, what do you got?
Well, I spend too much time with my brother, obviously, because mine is title track OG Original Gangster. And it's funny, he said the clean version because that's how I know the lyrics. Because I think I had that version only for the longest time. And yeah, that song is great, but the clean version is ill.
Yeah, no, it's because we had the videotape at Dad's. So when we go over to our dad's house, we tape Yo MTV Raps in like Headbangers Ball and stuff. So we had just stacks and stacks of like TDK and Sony VHS tapes with videos. So a lot of songs we know the clean versions.
From the videos, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I am up and I'm at number 4. And for the first time, I'm going to talk about 1993's Home Invasion. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. So this album cover, I'm going to leave it up. That's me. That explained me. That kid right there, that was
Yep.
me with the Public Enemy shirt and reading. I mean, that was literally me at that point and before. And I'm going with the title track Home Invasion, which talks about what this cover shows. He literally was my pusher. And this is another dope metaphor. Always making a home invasion on all the kids. And I was one of those kids' homes he was invading and teaching me the real. It's a dope, faster beat. And it kind of has a Bomb Squad vibe type beat. I always thought it was done by DJ Aladdin. And Ice rides it perfectly. And there's a great bridge between the second and third verse where the kid's telling his parents off. And he ends it with the line, I'll tell you what we did. We stole your fucking kids, the home invader. And hip hop stole me, and Ice-T was the main thief. That was literally me, that fucking kid there, listening to Ice-T, all the gangster shit, with the PE and all that. Well, that was my number 4.
Good call.
Surreal, what's your number 4?
From the Power album, High Rollers. You want to be a high roller. I remember I had that on a mixtape, I think, or a compilation, like before I had the album, I think, because I remember listening to it on that a lot. And it's just a really smooth song. It's a real kind of pimp flow, High Rollers. It's just one of those songs you can listen to on repeat.
It was actually on a lot of those like jive compilations in the late 80s.
Uh-huh.
Like there was there were so many of those back in the day. But High Rollers was on a lot of those type of ones. Jive did like a Yo MTV Raps one and some other, name ones like Rap Beat from the Street and shit that sounded cool to them at the time. But no, High Rollers, that was the other single besides I'm Your Pusher. And it's just smooth as hell. And another great video if you want to look at Darlene. Number 4, Raven. What do you got?
Oh, shit. Number 4, OG Original Gangsta. That's like my favorite. It was my favorite album from Ice. Probably still would be. Revisiting and everything. That's my favorite song. It's the title track. I love the beat. I love everything about that song.
Even from the beginning, we don't play that shit. And when that original gangster comes in, it gets you hype right away. I'm glad everyone agrees that that's such a dope song. That's the shit. You guys got some good taste in music, I must say. AP, what's your number 4?
Going back to a Body Count song. I can't remember the album, but it was in 97, I think. But it was the song Strippers.
Strippers! Yeah.
I don't know, I love that song. It's so dumb, but it's great.
I want my dick sucked, strippers. I
I
want to bust the nut. That was from that Violent Demise album. It was like
Yeah.
their third one. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
was it? Yeah,
Third
yeah.
one,
With the
You're
yeah.
B
right,
and the
you're right.
C.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, yeah.
Gang signs
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
front.
that is the album. You're right. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
you'd know.
Yeah. That's actually my second favorite Body Count album after the first one. He had some really dope. There's a song called "You Fucking with BC." I'm the home invader,
Yeah.
hand grenade, and then it's a really dope flow. Song "My Way," the title track, "Last Days." No, that's a good album. And Body Count's getting some love since it didn't get anything on my list. So top three, and I'm gonna take us to 1988, but I'm not going to Power. I'm going to the Colors soundtrack. And of course, the song Colors. I don't know if there's ever been a better song for a movie than Colors. I mean, hands down, the best song ever made about LA gangs. And one of the first ones, and no one's ever really done it better. Amazingly dope beat by Africa Islam, who really doesn't get enough credit. He produced so many classic Ice-T records from the 80s
Yeah.
up into the 90s, but especially those first handful of albums. Islam had his fingerprints on all that. And even in the beginning, when I says, "Yo, let's do this," and that beat hits, I mean, it gives you
Yeah.
chills. It still gives me chills all these years later when I can hear that over and over. It's just that haunting beat and Ice's words and just amazing storytelling. And it's a dope movie too. So Colors was my number three. Surreal, what made your number three?
My number three is I think it's because I feel like the lyrics are relatable and they're different subject matter. It's from Original Gangster, Lifestyles of the Rich and Infamous. The video where he's in the I can actually relate to where like their beats don't work and he's like, "We'll put on Rakim's beat," and he just
Right.
it's
Right.
all musty sounding and like because they didn't have the right instrumentals to rock the show and like everything's going wrong. Even though he's rich and he's being interviewed and stuff, he's like, "Well, I'm still going to work and it's still stressful." And
Right.
it's just it was one of his, maybe not one of his first, but it's one of his comical, maybe one of his first more comical
Right.
songs where and it just for some reason that's always stuck in my mind. I think that was released as a single and like there's a video for everything on that album, like we said. But I remember the video being aired and stuff, and I would always listen to that over and over and be like, man, this is super relatable.
And it was a single, and it is comical. The video definitely is comical. From he's on the airplane and there's turbulence, and he goes to
And
ease. All the
the
rappers
groupies are chasing him, and he just wants to be left alone. And
everyone wants them to listen to their demo tape, and they're hawking them in the
yeah,
hotel. It is.
it's kind of like the original More Money, More Problems. Like, yeah, he's famous, yeah, he's rich, but he's still going to work, and it's still
Right.
stressing him out. And like
Right.
everybody can relate to like having bad days.
Right. No, that was a good one. I'm glad that got brought up. Number three, Raven. What's yours?
Colors. So you pretty much covered everything I could have said about Colors. Great fucking song and definitely one of the best representations of the soundtrack.
No doubt. I don't think a song fits better with the movie it's paired with, better than Colors. So AP is your number three, Colors?
It is not. It might be up higher on the list.
Oh,
we'll find out.
We'll find out.
But my number three is off Ryan Pace, 6 in the Morning. Again, the storytelling, but doing it in a gangster way, in a hard way. That song's iconic forever. Love that song. It's always going to be there in my heart.
Well, that's a perfect bridge because we'll go right into my number two from Ryan Pace, and that is 6 in the Morning. Very few songs are as iconic as this, especially for West Coast hip hop, but even hip hop period, the storytelling. And even Cube said this inspired him for the way he wrote Boys in the Hood, the same type of format. He's even, he said was sparked by 6 in the Morning. And then Ice-T got the idea for 6 in the Morning from Schoolie D's Parkside Killers album, where he was like, "Oh, I can talk about gangsta shit," but he took it to the next level. I mean, this storytelling is outrageous even to this day. And it, like I said, it was a B-side on Dog in the Wax, which was my first Ice-T record of any kind. The beat was made by the unknown DJ who would go on to be part of Compton's Most Wanted. We talked about Midnight. I wanted to mention that, how that was a prequel, but 6 in the Morning, as iconic as it gets for hip hop, period. And on Ryan Pays, there's this like extended 8-minute version that had like 4 or 5 more verses. It took the story on later. So I'm just going to end my description with word. Surreal, what's your number 2?
I think I'm going to flip my 1 and 2. I know it's a little late in the game, but my number 2 from Home Invasion, it's on. The gun noises alone are just amazing. It's on that, like, it's one of those songs where I kind of get hyper when I listen to it. And man, it's just I knew Colors in New Jack Hustler they were originally, I kept crossing stuff off, but I think It's On is my favorite. Funny story about, so New Jack Hustler, the maxi single came in, the CD one came in the cardboard case.
Yep.
And I remember AP and I would have been on vacation with our little sister and our dad. I remember being out of town and going to like a Sam Goody in the mall and buying that maxi single on vacation. I still remember purchasing that CD. It's wild. But I'm getting not off topic, but It's On from Home Invasion is my number 2.
That was an honorable mention because you're right. You just even the scratching is dope in it, everything about it. It's amazing how I remember when I bought a certain album or when I heard a song for the first time, but I don't remember shit from last week. It's amazing how, something you love like hip hop, you just things like that burn in your memory. Because it always bugs me out how I remember shit like that, but I don't remember anything else in my life. No, It's On was an honorable mention. Raven, what is your number 2?
6 in the Morning, People Sat in My Dough. Most iconic song in hip hop, probably. How many people have since done that same exact story?
Right.
Master P, I know, did it, comes to mind. Didn't say he did it great, but he did it. But yeah, it's just like everything about 6 in the Morning is classic and iconic. So.
That Master P version was on In the Beginning. There was rap.
Yep.
But what I liked is
right.
instead of word, he goes, he does it instead of the word.
Can we bring up Cluckas by C Murder now then?
Sure.
Cluckas, where you read in Colors. Cluckas.
Yeah.
Cluckas. That was pretty sick. You gotta admit, that was pretty sick.
There was a local Milwaukee rapper. His name is Baby Drew, but he released an album called Powder, where he recreated the Power album, but he's got like drugs, like powder, cocaine.
Yeah.
A lot of people have spun off different iced tea ideas, but yeah, Master P's version was interesting. But yeah, that was that album. In the Beginning, there was rap, and it was newer artists at the time doing classic hip hop songs. Number 2, AP, what's your number 2?
I'm gonna bring back Body Count again since you guys are hating on the body count. There Goes the Neighborhood is the song this time. It's number 2 because that made me realize, Body Count is gonna be legit. Ice-T's legit. And There Goes the Neighborhood is kind of how I felt when I walked into the place, kind of being like the black sheep of a small town in Iowa, So we would move in, we do our hip hop. People would be like, "Oh, there goes the neighborhood." So it just clicked with me. Like, I love it.
And that was one of the singles off of that.
Yes,
it might have been the first single if I remember correctly.
I think that's why it's so iconic. Yeah, that's the first. I think the first Body Count song I heard, and I was like, "Oh gosh, so good."
There's only one song left to talk about. Our number ones, and I'm just gonna say, greatest album in hip hop history. No, greatest album in musical history. Fuck the Beatles. 1991's OG Original Gangster. The title track. OG Original Gangster. Fuck the Beatles, yeah.
They say the Beatles was the greatest. Fuck Paul. And the rest of you. That's good.
The title track, OG Original Gangster. I put this number 1 because of a lot of things you guys said. It's his life story. And it's also iconic because of the term OG, which now is used by soccer moms. I mean, it's just part of pop culture. It is. The term OG is used by everyone, young and old. It's just another example. Ice was blazing trails, and it's a dope song, beat by DJ Aladdin, another unsung hero in West Coast production. It doesn't get harder than this. We talked about the video. It's just a black and white video. He's in like a beat down room with a PE poster on the wall. Original Gangster. It'll probably always be my favorite Ice song. So that's my number one. Surreal, what used to be your number two, but is now your number one.
Once again, this is one of my unsung best songs of all time of everything. From the soundtrack Ricochet, the title track Ricochet. Come on, yeah. It goes on,
Yeah.
the bloody sneakers from the shot cop. Actually it was released as a maxi single on Sire with the cardboard again. And it was on the soundtrack, which was mostly the movie score. There wasn't a lot of hip hop on that, but they were gonna put it on Home Invasion. And when he switched to Priority, Warner Brothers was already like, well, you can't put there's too much cop killing on this song too. You already put it out on the soundtrack. Let's just bury this too. It was like kind of bubbling still in the controversy, but that's not why I like it so much. It's that beat and the way he flows, and even the video where he's like on the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those beats where I had the instrumental and the single, and I would freestyle over it for hours and hours. And Ricochet, it is. Go back and listen to it. It's way, way harder than you remember. It's like one of those you're like, Jeezy Joes, he was way ahead of his time on this one. It's super hard.
No, it was an honorable mention. And you are right. It was the cop killer controversy that got it booted off of the Home Invasion record.
Yeah,
but it was a maxi single. Dope. Number one, Raven, what's yours?
Man, my number one, it seems it almost always comes way the fuck out of left field when I'm doing these lists. Fucking Run DMC, Redman, Beastie Boys are always just like, I'm stupid surprised. No different. I went to 2019 Ice motherfucking T, Feds in my rear view. I think this is my favorite song that Ice did, period. And it used to be OG until when you set up that we were doing this podcast, and I started listening to this shit, and this song kept coming. And this is the one I had 7 times crossed off. It started off at number 8, and then by today it was my favorite fucking Ice-T song. The beats almost sounds fucking Wu-Tang-ish, and he flows almost East Coast like, and I don't know, I love the flow, I love the hook. A lot of his newer stuff is very hit or miss, and mainly miss for me, but that song shot up as my number one. Feds in my rear view.
I actually just pre-ordered a record he's putting out that is one half like greatest hits, or his favorite songs of his history, and then one newer songs, and that's on there because he did like 3 songs that all connected to one story, and Feds in My Rear View was one of those. Interesting pick. I didn't even consider those. I got to a certain point, but no, that is out of left field. All right, number one, AP, Body Count.
No, Colors. I have to go Colors, my favorite all time. Obviously, the song and being attached to the movie and stuff, but and the lyrics are great, but the beat really sold it for me. It's got to be my top 5 favorite beats of all time. And when I first got a drum machine, I was learning how to, make beats and stuff, and I made that beat. I recreated
on 303.
Yeah, I figured it out. I made the fucking beat. I was so excited. And so I took snippets of that beat and put it into our music throughout different songs. You might hear it like a song, like a da, da, or something like this somewhere along the lines in our old music. So,
all right, we did it. As always, if something's on my honorable mentions and it didn't get brought up by any of us, I just quick show it love. This one was ridiculously long, so I'll try to skip some because this was a hard one for me. But a couple I want to bring up that no one did was just for the fun of how fun it was. Girls, let's get butt naked and fuck. And the girls tried to kill me. Those are 2 of my favorites.
Oh yeah, with the guitar. That's a great one.
Peel Their Caps Back was really ahead of its time. That dark gangsta story. Pulse of the Rhyme Flow was similar to that too. 99 Problems. I've had people have no idea. They're fans of Jay-Z and have no idea that he took that from Ice. Offer Return to the Real, A Cramp Your Style, Rap Game's Hijacked. Seventh Deadly Sin, there's a song he does with King T called Check Your Game. And his last full album, Gangsta Rap, the intro to that, he mentions all like the main people in gangsta rap's history. I really like that one. And there's a song on Iceberg called Hit the Deck that's just really fast paced and
Yeah.
ill that I've always liked too. But those are my honorable mentions. Are we forgetting anything?
I always liked the tip of the iceberg, the reggae song he did
Oh,
with
with
Black
Black.
Uhuru.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's kind of out in left field, but that was a pretty good song, and it was a different genre. I know he did Back on the Block with Quincy Jones, and that was kind of more. That was his first award, if I remember. Maybe.
Yeah, like Big Daddy Kane's on that record, and it's sad. Like I worked with a kid who's in his 20s, and he listened to current rap, and he asked me my favorite rapper. I'm like Ice-T, and he's like, "Oh, I just thought he was an actor. He did music." It's sad the current generation doesn't even know him from music. It's crazy. But my all-time favorite rapper, he got me completely hooked on hip hop. Probably his storytelling. Absolute icon, Ice motherfucking T. One of the best. It's been great as always. Peace.
Still a b-boy, from the old to the new, still a b-boy, too bold for the school, still a b-boy, east coast to the west, b-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed, still a b-boy, from the old to the new, still a b-boy, too bold for the school, still a b-boy, east coast to the west, b-boys worldwide, we